This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Hello and welcome to another unique episode of A Different Kind of Woman. A different kind of woman always does her best. Now, since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution a century ago, global temperatures have risen. Ice caps are melting, there are droughts in India, and elsewhere in the world there have been record floods. Should the climate change be a priority? Is enough being done to prevent climate change? Is it too late, and what can we do? On today's show, we'll be discussing this and much more. Let's take a look at what's coming up next on the show. Next, we're going to do a climate change quiz.
Well, yes, I believe it increases the heat of the climate.
Find out what people on the streets of London think with Anna Maria.
Well, beef is like a massive contributor to climate change. It's like 3 times bigger than greenhouse gases.
We'll be welcoming Samantha Heath, the Chief Executive of London Sustainability, to the studio.
If I give you kind of 3 segments, one is about health and well-being, getting people to exercise more, eat healthier food, those sorts of things that we can do to make ourselves healthy in order to combat the changes that we've got to have ahead of us.
Obviously, I'm not discussing the topic alone. Joining me are my conscientious co-hosts, Samantha and Ed.
Hello.
They're bringing a wealth of knowledge to the studio today.
Well, we don't know about that.
Let me say, they're bringing opinions to the studio.
There you go.
We were actually to learn a lot more on the show.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I think it's one of those things, one of those areas, one of those topics where it's so important.
Right.
And I think that we can actually give our own contributions toward it. But if you're oblivious or completely unaware of what the depths of it is, we're going to be in trouble. So I think we want to learn more here, don't we?
Definitely. I need to learn more.
Definitely. That's the purpose of today's show, is to bring enlightenment to a topic that many people don't take seriously or, do not bring to their priority list, right?
Yes.
But it is a priority. And
so it is a priority, absolutely.
Exactly, and we want to make them conscious about it. So starting off with the very easy question, or rather, a question that many people will have when they hear the topic of our show. What is climate change?
What is climate change? Well, when I think about climate change, I think it's to do with the changes in the earth and its resources as a result to us, how us human beings are living. And it causes me to think about what we can or should or shouldn't do in order to preserve the earth and these resources. That's what comes to mind when I think climate change. Yeah,
I agree with Anne, and it kind of links me straight to the greenhouse gases. And in terms of greenhouse gases, we can't survive without it. You think it brings me to the mind of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, water vapor, all that we need. The earth, the planet needs it, and that's the problem now. The planet needs it, and I believe the gases, as far as I know, it keeps the earth warmer. And without it, of course, the earth will be, I suppose it will be freezing cold. And I suppose us humans and animals and trees and things like that, we would not survive.
I think we'll get in the details later through the show. But climate change is basically the change in the weather patterns in the world, right?
Yes.
So we all know that summer comes in at a different at a specific time, winter at a specific time. During summer, certain things happen. The sun, it's hot. During winter, it's cold. But now the patterns are changing so much so that sometimes when it's summer, we're kind of like, oh, the summer is delaying to come in. Like, oh, winter is taking time to come in. Because now the patterns of weather and temperatures are changing, which is what global change is now. We have a quiz that we're going to quiz you.
You're going to quiz me, all right? Apologies in advance, everyone.
We're going to quiz you, and
she wants to know how much we know in terms
the
of...
purpose is to bring consciousness to
yeah.
our viewers, so they may understand how global warming and how climate change happens. Now, the first question is, you mentioned it, Samantha, what are greenhouse gases?
Well, yes, I believe it increases the heat of the climate, and without it, like I was saying earlier, it's basically a contribution of the carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, water vapor. I think there's methaneth. They're all the dioxide, but without it, it keeps the Earth, the planet warm.
That's true.
And I think without that, the balance, of course, the trees, the animals cannot live. And of course, we need the food. And I think that's where, at the moment, I believe it's in balance. So I think.
So what do you believe are greenhouse gases?
Do you know what? I have never actually heard of the term greenhouse gases.
So let's help you and find out what are greenhouse gases. I'm not going to read off. I'm just going to give it. You viewers will listen to
1-0 to
it.
Sam.
But I'm just going to explain it in layman terms. Greenhouse gases are gases that trap heat. So they get released to the atmosphere,
planet,
to the climate, and then they trap heat. And therefore, they contribute to global warming, which is not a very good thing.
Yeah. Well, I can't agree with you there,
it is a negative thing. Global warming is what's affecting the climate change right now.
Yeah, but I don't think it's complete. I think there's a reason why it's in balance now. But
exactly,
because it's not that it's not a good thing, because we can't survive without.
No. Global warming is not a good thing, Samantha. Global warming is definitely a good thing, not a good thing. The Earth was balanced and surviving as it was meant to be, but because of the warming now, the warming is causing a lot of changes, which we're going to go through it during the show. But the global warming is causing a lot of changes to the climate, which are not a good thing, which are negative, right? But we're going to go through it. You're going to get a time to have enlightenment during this show. So now,
looking forward to it.
We have the second question. How are human beings causing this climate change?
Well, I kind of look at it like this, Muti. I know you said that, with global warming, I agree with you to a point, but I think that there is a contribution of why it's becoming to a negative status now, why everything is all mixed up. And I think, if we look back on 10,000 years ago, everything was a lot more natural. And now we've had to use a lot more electricity, a lot more gas, in terms of like transport.
Exactly.
Transport and these things that, human beings have had to invented machines and everything else. It's run by so much more gas, and I think not that we can do without it. We're trying our best to walk more and do these things. However, I believe these are the contributions to the negative side of why it's going to be imbalanced.
Same. I think how are humans causing climate change? I think it's the demands that we have for the pace of our life now. Perhaps some of the things that we're using in our everyday products, or the choices that we're making, maybe in not recycling. I don't know if that's another topic, or how we deal with the Earth's natural resources. I think is all to do with humans wanting things now, quickly, whatever, underlines a lot of the bad choices we make that impacts climate change, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We as human beings, the answer in full will be on screen, but again, to break it down in layman terms, we as human beings are responsible for the amount of greenhouse gases we have in the climate, which in turn cause a lot of global warming. So we are the ones who are responsible for most of the greenhouse gases that get emitted to the atmosphere, like the carbon dioxide, and most of it comes from things like cars, like or in places where we actually use fire and we cook with fire, the coal, So that kind of fuel releases a lot of carbon dioxide to the system. And also we do cause a negative imbalance here on Earth as well, cutting down trees and things like that are meant to neutralize to
Yes,
absorb
right.
the amount of carbon dioxide. So we're reducing the resources we're cutting down the
place
resources
clean.
to reduce carbon dioxide, and we're releasing a lot of it to the system, and that causes an imbalance, all right? And so now we have a third question. What will happen as a result of climate change?
Well, like
Why is it a negative thing, as we mentioned in the beginning?
Well, when we think about it, like what you were saying about all the different changes in the climate, it can bring such of like in terms of earthquakes, more floods in certain countries. You know, like Asia, Latin America, they're either getting so much floods now. Some countries are too warm. Some countries have become too cold. So I think this is the dangerous part, because of course it's going to put animals and humans' lives at risk. So I think that's the dangerous side of it.
And I think one of the what will happen to the Earth? I mean, will there be an Earth in X number of years' time? Can we carry on at the pace that we're going? So I think that is the end result, basically, unless we fix up. Sounds a bit...
Yeah,
but it's the reality.
definitely. I mean, the global warming is causing a negative impact in terms of, for example, when you think of places where we have ice, like the Arctic, the Antarctic.
And it's melting away, isn't it?
So when you have the ice bags, the glaciers, they're all melting. So all the ice is melting, and therefore the amount of humidity amount of humidity in the climate is reducing. And so in countries, for example, where we don't have a lot of humidity, a lot of water resources, it dries up. So it dries up countries that are already dry, and it reduces humidity in countries that are already humid. And all of this ice is increasing, all of this ice that's melting is increasing the sea level, which is not good for us, because then, like you said, this is where the hurricanes and all the other disasters, weather disasters are...
Not a pretty picture at all, is it?
Are worsened, right? So before we delve further into this topic, let's find out what people on the streets of London thought with Anna Maria.
How much do you think is being done to prevent climate change?
I mean, I don't see anything actively in at least my community, living in Croydon. To be fair, it's not the most rural place, so I mean there's a lot of stuff like public transport, all that sort of stuff.
A lot.
In the UK?
In the UK I think we're doing well, and Europe definitely. Well, they're changing ways of doing things, doing it more economically, not economically. What's the word I'm looking for?
Do you think so? I mean, obviously we're getting all the wind farms and everything, but it's still fuel-based power stations everywhere here, isn't there?
So there's change in the wind.
I think we all need to pull together and have like a real kind of global just mission. I don't know what else to say other than that. I mean,
what kind of mission? What would help?
Stop using fossil fuels, use renewable sources of energy, stop eating beef,
stop
farming
eating
animals.
beef.
So how will not eating beef help?
Well, beef is like a massive contributor to climate change. It's like 3 times bigger than greenhouse gases
In what way?
for emissions, like in causing the greenhouse
and the water
effect.
use of like to be able to produce beef, it takes like a lot of water as well to like feed the cattle and like the crops to feed the cattle and everything like that. So
are you concerned that it's too late to save the planet?
Never too late. The planet will survive. The people might be a bit scuppered, but the planet will survive. We'll be fine.
We've got to hope that.
No, I don't think it's too late, because the main concerns, as far as I'm aware, as far as what I've been educated on, which is a low level, it's greenhouse effect, stuff like that. A couple million years ago, the carbon dioxide levels were far higher than they are now, and everything managed to live and survive on.
I think it looks like a kind of doomy path, but like I was saying before, I think if there's just sort of a global consensus and we all try and, or even just individuals be more aware of it and do their little bit, it'll just... But I think it needs to be... well, we're vegetarian and we recycle and just try and like be really conscious about it. I don't know, even things like taking showers and not using as much water as we think, like as we could,
So basically what they've been telling us for the past 50 years has caught up with us.
Yeah.
I'm every woman. It's
it's definitely catching up with us, everything that we've learned. And I think the problem is many times we know of the problem, but we don't make ourselves part of the solution.
Yeah.
Because it's not to an extent a problem that affects us to our skin immediately.
Yeah.
So we kind of like, okay, live in ignorance bliss. And I think that we need to start making ourselves part of the solution. We need to start being conscious of the choices that we make, you know, like of the sprays that we buying a lot of aerosol sprays, of the amount of driving that we do when we can avoid it. Sometimes you kind of think, no, I'm not going to stop driving. I'm not going to stop walking. I'm going to drive.
Yeah.
We don't make ourselves part of the solution, I think.
That's true. But I do feel that we need a lot more education. You know, with some of those people talking on the streets, I was like, where do they find that out from? Where do they find out from? You know, there's certain things that they don't teach you in school, that you don't see on billboards, that are not part of the government's agenda. And it's like, well, if it's not important to, if it's not seen or shown as being important to the powers that be, then how is it going to be filtered down to the rest of us? So I think there needs to be a lot more awareness on an open level, to be able to reach every group in society, not just some people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you to an extent. I think the awareness is there because, I mean, it's spoken about all the time.
Where?
Newspapers, you hear
We
on
are part of the
TV.
awareness team.
Awareness. and I just think that, I think what it is, Anne, I think we're naturally a selfish generation. So we tend to just think about not so much the planet and what's going on and what's on the news. We'll probably hear something on the news and we'll skip that bit and we'll go to something that's more kind of linked to our personal life.
Yeah.
And I think that is the problem. And I absolutely agree with Mutte, because I think, and I agree with you as well, Anne, because I think awareness is the key. I think if we are aware of the damage that we individuals can cause to the planet, and if we can, each of us, I so love this young lady that was speaking. I know she's a vegetarian and she's clearly trying to do her part. And I'm learning myself more and more. I'm trying to get this away. I'm trying to read more and things like that. And I think it will help all of us if we learn more about climate changes and everything that's going on in the planet, that each one of us can contribute. And like what Mutti was saying, it can be just simple things. Like you know, you're working on your eco footprints and cutting things down. Like you said, you talked about recycling and you know drinking, you know, water. I mean, water, using less water, and all these things is a contribution. Doing more walking if you can, rather than using more transport. You know, something simple like turning off the electric when you're not using it.
Exactly.
And all those things are contributions towards it.
Definitely. I know we have a lot to say in the studio and we're going to definitely delve into it. But what about you? Are you doing something about global change? Are you someone who is aware and is participating and is being part of the solution, as we mentioned? Well, we're going to take a short break, and after the break, we'll be delving into this topic a little bit more. Don't go away. Welcome back. On today's show, Race Against Climate Change, we've been discussing what we can do to decrease climate change. And joining us in the studio is Samantha Heath, the Chief Executive of London Sustainability. Welcome to the studio.
Hello.
We're loving your title and absolutely loving your name.
Absolutely,
I wonder why. So, Samantha, what led you to become the CEO of London Sustainability?
Well, we work together. We believe in exchanging ideas, and we believe that it's important for us to live healthily and sustainably, that we need to communicate and share ideas. So we call ourselves a think and do tank. So not only do we have big ideas about how it would be good to live together, but we actually get out there and do it, working with people.
And can you let us know more about the work of London Sustainability?
Well, if I give you kind of 3 segments, one is about health and well-being, getting people to exercise more, eat healthier food, those sorts of things that we can do to make ourselves healthy in order to combat the changes that we've got to have ahead of us. We do a lot of work on climate change in relation to helping people stop up the drafts in their home. We work a lot with faith communities, and we find that people who get together, break bread together, pray together regularly are really able to work together to make sure that there's something they can do, making the planet a better place to be. And we do a lot of work on pollution busting. A lot of our communities get out there and measure pollution, what it's like in their backyards, what it's like at that bus stop where you wait every day, outside the school gates. And they work with their local councillors, local politicians, to make sure that the local policies really are making that difference, so that we're combating pollution, combating the impacts of climate change and extreme weather, and combating everyday lifestyle. We're trying to support people to live better lives for themselves.
And you actually spoke a lot about pollution. So I heard, I don't know if I'm accurate, I heard that the government risks being sued for negligence.
Correct.
For, if someone becomes ill in London because of air pollution or something like that.
Yeah,
what's
pollution,
that about?
pollution is a big deal in London especially, but it is a world thing. We're doing work with Nairobi and Delhi at the moment, so it's really quite important to place ourselves. But London has a problem, so does Birmingham, so does Southampton, certain cities. Yeah. So, in London, 9,500 people, they say, die every year earlier as a consequence of you get strokes, you get heart attacks, because you take in the pollutants, you get lung cancer, COPD and asthma, take in the pollutants, and we are less able to combat those in our bodies. So it's quite an dementia, apparently, children's attainment in schools, young lungs being exposed to this. Don't want anyone to get frightened by it. What we really want people to do is to eat healthy food, 10 a day, exercise. That will really help you combat the impact of pollution. But what our work is, we're asking to have less diesel, free diesel in London, driving bad cars, to walk and cycle a lot more, and to walk down the less polluted street. Or even if you walk down one side of the street rather than the other, you'll find there is a difference to pollution.
So do you think that there is that it's a good idea to say sue the government to some degree?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is it's actually at the ballot box. Vote. Make sure that the politician that you elect really cares about this sort of thing. It's being part of being an active citizen. I think suing the government has been a good thing because it's made everybody realise just how important this is. But what we do, we're not part of the Client Earth court case, but we do support Client Earth, absolutely. What we're trying to do is work with citizens so that everybody knows what happens every day. So if, for instance, if you're insisting on next day delivery for your goods, if you're insisting on fresh fruit and vegetables every day in the store, what does that mean for pollution? How did it get delivered? There's a lot of things. It's not just about not walking, not cycling, cycling and walking. It's not just about that. It's not just about the car that you personally drive. It's also the goods and services that you buy. So it's really important to think of ourselves in the context of a community. We're not islands, we are a community, and everybody knows that. So it's just a question of how we live our lives differently.
Oh, gosh, unbelievable, isn't it? In your opinion, what's your opinion on Londoners? What stops Londoners from actually living a sustainable life?
I think we're rushed. I don't know how it feels for you. I think that many people feel that London isn't a community, but it is for me. And we work with loads of people who do get that sense of community. So I think that sometimes we feel pressured not to feel part of a community. And I think that's the first thing. So the first thing is join a community, be part of it at your club, talk to people in the street. You're not mad if you do that.
Exactly.
I think that's you feel as though another person is really important to you, and you'll feel happier. Kindness, well-being really derives from random acts of kindness. What stops us? I've only ever lived in London. I've only ever lived in the one square of the A to Z that I live in, and I know people in my street. It's a question of taking time out of your day to talk to people. And I think recognizing that the people in the tube next to you are another person might be the thing that really stops us.
I actually have to
agree with her.
You know, I was going to say I have to agree with you because I come from South Africa. I was not born here. So I come from a different culture, and back home is like everyone is family. You mean everyone is your auntie, everyone is your uncle. And when I came to London, I was actually set off guard because I would come in and sit next to someone in the bus and go, "Hi, how are you?" And I was like, so I kind of quickly figured out that was out of the norm, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's something that we can do to bring. Go on.
I mean, Muti, you're saying you came from South Africa. I only came from Birmingham. And when I from Birmingham, a couple of hours away. And when I first came to London, I felt exactly like this. I felt like I wasn't in a community, that people were actually too busy to even smile, to greet each other, to even be kind with each other, to help each other. And I absolutely appreciate what you say, because I think that each one of us can take that responsibility. And I taught that. You know, on my road, I took it my point of duty to know my neighbours and to be friendly and to see what help they need, especially the elders and things like that. And I think it makes all the difference.
Because when we're united, we fight better against the challenges that we face. And I was just thinking, we're talking about sustainable life, but for the audience who may not know what is sustainable life, how can we define sustainable life?
Well, the one thing I know about keeping healthy, random acts of kindness makes your blood pressure go down.
Absolutely.
So just remember that.
really?
It makes you better.
Absolutely.
Dilates the arteries, your blood pressure goes down. So it is, you know, the picking up something for somebody or talking to them. Let's start with the easy things that cost us no money. I really would recommend everybody eat locally produced food and vegetables that are in season. And I would say eat less meat. It's not just the cows and their flatulence, which is an issue. It's how much grain you have to feed them in order to produce, you know, it's how much water and grain you have to feed them in order to produce that pound of beef. Chicken and pork less so. I'm a vegetarian and I find it much healthier for me, but it's how you feel in yourself, and some people feel they definitely need meat. So what we do ask is a couple of days free a week is good, or at least have meat just 3 times a week, something like that. Cut it right back. Dairy too, because obviously that's a cow. So I would think we'll start with that. But the next thing is definitely how you live and how you keep your home warm, not too warm because that's not good for the babies and things like that. And elders do need to keep warm. So I would say 18 to 20, 21 sometimes when you're feeling a little bit unwell. That's the sort of temperature that you need to keep it at. The big one, ladies, though, I have to say, is flying.
Yes.
You know, really try. You know, some people say, "Oh, I've just got to dash to Budapest this weekend." You know, do you really? You know, those are the questions that we need to ask. And in the world that we're now living in, you know, do we really need to be judged by our mobile phone? Do we need to be judged by what car we drive? You know, it's a much happier life if we're not judging people like that, and I'm not being judged. So in a sense, it is buying less, and you know, people who do stay and holiday in this country, you know, they're as good as anybody else. It's not that they've just got slightly less money, it's just that they're doing it for very good reasons. So take a train, not the plane, is a big one.
Now, I'm gonna ask this question because I think it will help challenge people who kind of like have a mentality to not be part of the solution. For example, I'm thinking, oh, you're saying for me to stop flying, but if I stop flying, is the airplane gonna stop? There's probably gonna be people on the airplane anyway. So people have that mentality. How is that?
It is the collective. It is everybody doing this together. And I think I'm not saying don't go on holiday. Holidays are good for us. It's just how many times do we need to go? And then I have to be equal. You know, some families do need to get to Granny's funeral, you know, which is the other side of the world. So no, I'm not going to go around preaching to everybody and say this is what you've got to do. I'm simply saying is do not judge people who don't. And then start doing less of it. You know, you can't say, oh, we must go for that hen weekend. Hen weekends can be in Birmingham, they can be in Manchester,
your backyard,
they can be in Scotland. You know, you can have good hen weekends. You don't need to fly. You know, so I'm basically saying flying is a big one. How we keep our home how we travel around and what we eat. That's the sort of thing that we need to think about. And it is a bit of common sense. I don't know about you, but I can't afford to pay fuel bills that are too high.
Yeah.
And I can't afford to fly all over the place.
Yeah.
But also it's what we buy. And, you know, if someone's got an old granny phone and, you know, so, you know, it's an old wind-up one, don't judge them.
It may sound like a small thing, I'm going to choose not to fly as much. But if more people choose not to fly as much, then we're going to have less flights.
For sure.
So then we're going to have less pollution. So that's the mentality to adopt, instead of just looking at yourself as an individual, but look at yourself as part of the bigger picture that's contributing towards the solution.
And then think about it positively. Think about it, actually, how do I really want to live? What do I want to give my kids or my neighbour's kids if you don't have it? It's not just all about having kids. It's about how you're happier and healthier by being part of a community and being healthy, eating not too much, just enough, and looking after people around you. So
I was about to go into a rant earlier, and you're hitting all of the points that I want to be part of my rant. Luckily, I've stopped here, but I'm going to take the opportunity. So we were talking about what we can do, what I can do. You know, I can do this, I can do that. But I think if we have individual eyes doing things, it won't be like the lady mentioned in Street Talk, which is the global mission. So how can we? I mean, it's great that I should not fly or I should recycle, but what can I do to bring that knowledge to more of a communal platform? So, for example, I'm a manager at work. So what changes can I make that can impact the whole of the team?
Yeah, I think it's about collective. I think it's about people talking about this. It's not like the first rule of Fight Club not to talk about Fight Club. First rule of climate change is to talk about it. And to go to work and not feel embarrassed. You know, I think that I talk about it, say, I'm going to save this, I'm not going to do that. And there's sometimes we feel under pressure to say, oh, you've got a new, and you feel good because you've got a new, and that's the thing that makes you feel puffed up and proud about who you are. But it's actually, oh, I got this and it was secondhand, or I'm giving it away, or I'm using less. I think that's the first thing. Talk about friends, colleagues at work. Basically, turn your screens off. Make sure that if it's a little bit chilly, put a jumper on instead. If it's a little bit hot, don't grab the AC. You know, maybe open the windows. It's about thinking before you act, and not automatically assuming. But I think the first rule about climate change is to talk about it. So we go out there and we say, actually today I'm going to go out of my way to try and make that difference. But we can do it collectively at church, at rowing clubs, at sports clubs, at school gates.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got to take our friends and neighbours with us.
Thank you so much for the amount of information you've shared on this show for us. And I think you now have something to work with. You know now what you can do in order to contribute to less of the climate change, right? You know what you can do now. You have tangible things that Samantha has mentioned that you can do. Now you need to start doing it. We're going to take a short break, and after the break, we'll be back with more on the race against climate change. Welcome back. On today's show, The Race Against Climate Change, we've been discussing global warming and the roles that we humans play in it. And certainly we humans play a lot. And now, funnily enough, we kind of tend to think that global warming is someone else's problem, but we don't see it as our problem, and we don't see ourselves as contributing to the problem, right? We tend to live our lives and we don't feel like we're actually killing our climate. So what can we do? I mean, Samantha in the interview mentioned quite a few things, but what else can we do in our day-to-day life to decrease climate change?
I think there's some. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, there's got quite a lot of things we can do. I mean, our guest, she mentioned so many things in our living sustainably, and we all have a responsibility in looking after our planet. But yes, we can help. I mean, just simple. Living things such as, for example, insulating your loft, your home. This can help to keep your house warmer. It can then helps you to use less
heating, right?
Heating. So that's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
And even simple things like, I'm big on this, switching off appliances, switch off
Yes.
the TV, don't just put it on standby. And actually, don't you just switch off or go around switching off after everyone, but educate people in your house, in the
right.
office, switch off the lights, make it a rule, you know, help them to understand why.
And I think one of the things that we can do is cut down on driving. That's definitely a big contribution to global warming. And so if we can cut down on driving, do it. For example, do you actually need to take that extra trip to the grocery store? So why don't you plan your groceries in advance and you know, take as fewer trips as you can to the grocery store? For example, this is something that I think because I don't have a lot of time, so I actually have to plan ahead for my, I mean, depending on the storage that I have, I can't shop as much as I would like to, because if it were up to me, I would shop once in a month and that would be it. But I'm limited by the storage that I have, so I have to go twice a month. But I will not go shopping more than twice a month. I actually have to plan ahead. So I make my list. I know what I need to get for these 2 weeks, and then I go and I get it, and then I don't go again for 2 weeks. So, but then sometimes people will like, oh, I forgot to go bread. Drive, go get bread. Oh, I forgot to get this. Drive, go get milk. So, you know, driving less, making more plans, that's something that we can do, right?
Yeah, and that's something I will pick up because I tend to drive a lot, and I'm really trying to have more awareness now and trying to do things like this. Walk to the shop and go and buy your stuff.
Exactly.
Things like that, which
Walk,
is
cycle.
It's so able. We can all do this. You know, I mean, we can even start changing even our electric appliances and use more energy sufficient products. Even simple things like our light bulbs.
Yeah, exactly.
We can get more energy saving light bulbs, which can help a lot.
And I know what many people will say, oh, but they're more expensive. But actually they're not, because
in long term they last longer.
They last a lot longer. And they save a lot of energy. So the kind of like change the old light bulbs, you know, those ones that you can actually see the sparks going on. Those are the ones that emit the carbon that we don't want in our planet. So something to think about. The light bulbs that you're using. You mentioned something earlier on, which is leaving your electricity on, because sometimes you may think, oh well, I've switched, like I've removed this from the socket, but your socket is still on.
Yes, exactly.
So it's still generating electricity. Exactly. So being in the, for example, having one thing that I do have as well is the habit of I leave the room, I switch off the light. So I leave that room. It's a good habit, a nice healthy habit. And it saves in the electricity bill.
Well, that too.
It saves in the electricity bill, right? Yeah. But because sometimes you're in the living room, but the lights in your bedroom are on. Yeah. And so they're contributing to global warming. The lights in your kitchen are on. So I only switch on the space where I am
where you are.
And everything else gets switched off. So there are quite a lot of things. And what do you think of what she mentioned about holidays?
Oh gosh, I wanted to touch on that actually because I'm a fan of a holiday, as you know. But I think is what she said, it does contribute. So maybe, you know, do we have to go as far as we think we need to? Maybe you can do one big holiday a year where you go abroad, where you actually need to take a plane. But there are so many cities in the UK, but also there's the Eurostar, you know, that will take you to a lot of Europe.
That's right.
There's other things we can do, you know, we can space it out a bit more. So I think maybe see what the options are. You can always go away and look at different things within the UK, like I said. It's just about balancing out, organising your holiday a lot more, and
and even using less water is a biggie. You know, you know, cutting down on showers and things. It's quite a difficult
bucket.
You know, but I mean, you know, we use, you know, especially if you garden a lot, you're using a lot of water excessively, and I think that's another way of cutting down.
Yeah, and definitely recycling, right?
Yes, recycling,
especially paper.
Especially paper. I mean, use less disposable products. Buy less, rather.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, buy more organic stuff.
And I think, again, this is something that we don't like. We don't like to support recycled goods. Normally you go, because they don't look as pretty as new goods, right? You go and you get that recycled gift bag, and it just looks like, no, I prefer a more prettier gift bag. But when you support recycled stuff, then they're going to produce more recycled stuff and less of
use less trees, cut down less sun trees.
Exactly. We need those trees to keep our climate healthy, to keep our climate balanced, right?
Exactly.
So, ladies, on today's show, we've definitely, you know,
loads we can do.
I think
we can contribute.
I think we received a lot of information.
Yes.
And so now, and we received what to do about it. But then the question is sometimes for us to start changing our habits is hard. Because when we think of these things that we need to do in order to have this sustainable life, it's kind of hard because it demands maybe a lot of sacrifice on us. It demands a lot of it exerts a lot on us. Exactly. Thank you. It demands effort from us, and sometimes we're not willing to do that. So your final words to our audience who's listening, in terms of what we can do to embrace the information that we've learned on this show today.
Well, I would kind of say it's never too late. You know, if you're a type of person who basically you're not doing anything to contribute towards making your planet a lot healthier, it's never too late to start. We all can start from somewhere by many things that we've discussed today. The biggie for me is really making it your most important, as what Samantha was saying earlier, you're living sustainably. I think that is so important. I think we can all contribute towards eco-friendly and do your part. And I think if society is doing their part, everybody contributes. I think it's just going to make generally a lot healthier for each and every one of us.
Yeah. And we spoke a lot about what we can do individually, which is obviously very important. And I think we need to take that, as I keep banging on about, to the open domain. So social media is a big thing right now, you know. Maybe we can post a lot more there, especially if you are influential, you have a lot of followers, if there are celebrities out there, maybe talking more about that, like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes,
that's excellent. He used his status for that.
Yes,
so if you are someone in power or with a voice, use that voice not just to take a pretty picture, but use that voice to help the earth, to put a bit of information out there because your followers will listen. And also, I think lobbying at the government level, because if the government and politics, they listen to the people if enough people speak. So, you know, it's a bit. Let's be real, okay? Unfortunately, with a lot of countries and politics, it comes down to finances. So if I'm late paying my my tax return, I will get fined. If I don't do this, I will get fined because of the financial benefit from the government. But then maybe there needs to be some fining. Maybe there needs to be a bit more penalty for not doing the basic things. So if we lobby more at a government level where changes can be made from top down, I think we'll see a lot more change because no one wants to have to pay a fine. Yeah, and definitely, you know, what I think, I started off saying, make yourself part of the solution, right? And I'm going to take it even a step backwards because we are part of the problem. And that's what you need to start thinking about. It's not only you contributing to make the world better, but it's contributing, you are contributing towards killing our world. So certain choices that you may be making are contributing towards a problem that we have in our planet today. So start thinking of that. Start making yourself responsible for this problem. It is your problem. It is you causing it. You are part of this problem. So when you start becoming conscious that, so I'm doing something negative, it makes it easier for you to adopt a more positive lifestyle. It makes you start thinking, well, I want to stop being part of the problem now. I want to stop being the one who contributes. And that's where we come in at an individual level, right? So stop doing the things that are killing our planet. Oh, but I'm just taking another trip to the supermarket. No, you're not. You're not just taking another trip. You're contributing a lot of carbon dioxide to our system that we don't need. Oh, but I'm just eating beef and I love eating beef. But you're not just eating beef. And that's the thing. Let's not be selfish and let's embrace a more friendly, I would not even say friendly, I'd say let's be responsible towards the planet that we have and let's save it by making positive choices. I believe now you know what to do. You have a lot
And now it's up to you to take what we've done, what we've shared with you, and do it. Simple as that. Just take it and practice it. You've heard enough from us today, but now we want to hear from you. Give us ideas of what you are doing to save our planet. What are you doing that's contributing? Maybe things that we didn't mention here on the studio. Tell us about it. Tell us your thoughts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Let's spread this positive message. You may even email us at comments@dkw or help@dkw.me. And that's it for this show. Join us next week for another exciting episode of A Different Kind of Woman. Until then, it's goodbye. Stay tuned for A Different Kind of Views up next.
This program is brought to you by UCKG.